Good evening, Bahamas. Coming up tonight on our news.
There were many sleepless nights leading up to the decision to increase value-added tax. Find out which minister said that. Straight ahead.
Our news is brought to you by Alive.
Welcome to our news and thanks for joining us. I'm Christina Dragovich. Topping news tonight, 4 years after he likened the implementation of value-added tax to jumping off a cliff, Finance Minister Peter Turnquest today defended the Minnis administration's decision to increase the VAT rate to 12%, revealing that government has no intention of lowering the rate even when the country is on more sound financial footing. He made the comments during a live news conference this morning. Kyle Joaquin reports.
Just a day after he stood right over there and delivered the 2018-2019 budget communication, Finance Minister Peter Turnquest held a press conference today to try and bring some more clarification. And just as it was yesterday, the dominant topic, the proposed increase to value-added tax.
You can see right in our region what has happened when debt has been allowed to get out of control.
The increased VAT rate comes 4 years after Turnquest asserted that the country would be jumping off the cliff if it implements value-added tax. He said at the time, "We don't want to be like Barbados. We don't want to be like Grenada. We don't want to be like Haiti. We don't want to be like any of those countries. They are crying about VAT. St. Lucia is crying about VAT. We don't want to be like that. We are a prosperous nation." Well, the Deputy Prime Minister was reminded of those comments today.
As I mentioned, at the time I voted against value-added tax, I believed that when you looked at the increased spending that had been done to buffer the country from the effects of the recession, that we ought to have used that opportunity to bring the roll back.
With the goal of having a balanced budget or surplus by 2020-2021, the Finance Minister said government is sticking to its proposed plan to increase the percentage of VAT to 12%. Since the announcement during the 2018-2019 budget communication yesterday, government has received heavy backlash from the public, many of whom say they have already been struggling to make ends meet.
The only thing that we can guarantee in life is death. But having said that, we believe, and we've set the rate at 12%, because we believe that it will meet the needs of the Bahamas well into the future.
Turnquest also hit back at opposition leader Philip Davis, who said the new budget is evidence of failure.
It is laughable that an opposition that oversaw a massive run-up in debt over the last 5 years would have the nerve, the gall, to stand before the Bahamian people to talk about this current government.
There were several other fee hikes in that budget presentation. However, Turnquest said once government's 3-year strategic plan pays off, the country should see the elimination of other fees and taxes, some of which he called colonial. As the cost of living rises once again, the Finance Minister was asked if government intends to raise minimum wage.
If you increase wages in one sector, the business is going to compensate for that, which means they're going to increase the cost of the product or the service that they deliver. That means the consumer who is buying that cost of goods or service, they're going to have to spend more.
Government has removed duty on clothing and shoes for retailers, as well as increased social services budget by $25 million. For our news, I'm Kyle Joaquin.
Well, the Finance Minister also hitting back at the Bahamas Gaming Operators Association, which accused the government of blatant discrimination by levying drastic increases in taxes, some as high as 50%. Numbers bosses say the move singles out one industry, the potential to cripple several of the companies involved. They feel the industry is being racially targeted. Here's how Turnquest responded.
Last time I looked in the mirror, I'm a black man. So I don't know how I'm going to racially profile my own people. And so I'll leave that there. With respect to the industry itself, as you all know, the Bahamian people voted a particular way with respect to this industry. Nonetheless, it was allowed to proceed. But it was allowed to proceed in a way that the Bahamian people were given the short end of the stick, if you will.
Turnquest says gaming houses in other regions are taxed as high as 80%, adding it's time local operators are made to pay.
We have tried to strike a balance to be fair to them and be fair to the Bahamian people. There's a call, for instance, for us to establish a national lottery. We don't necessarily want to get into that business, but we recognize that it is a valuable business that has the ability to generate revenue for the Bahamian people, such that we can invest in cultural activities and sporting activities and education.
And as Bahamians adjust to the idea of paying more in value-added tax, local businesses will have some adjustments of their own, changing their systems to reflect the new rate of taxation. Jillian Gray reports.
Yesterday's announcement that there would be an increase in value-added tax from 7.5% to 12% was a major blow to Bahamians. Of major note to the business community is the fact that this change will take place within a month.
That is given us a tight window in order to do that in a month's time. So that's one of the major concerns I see there. Just the lack of notification, the lack of timeline in order to get this properly done.
So I know to impose this increase in the next probably 30 days is going to be like more of a shock effect. I believe that some people are going to repel a bit, try to not make maybe it as a mandatory thing in their budget, just to kind of cut back to probably pay for school fees or maybe bread basket items, so we have to find a way to improvise.
The government said the rise in taxes is part of the plan to generate more revenue. Now, while Cartwright said the increase will ultimately lead to customers spending less and resulting in bad news for companies, Williams said the change should have been expected and businesses need to simply compensate.
I think you're going to see a lot of revenue for a lot of businesses going down, and as a result, I'm sure you're aware, if a revenue goes down for a business, it's going to lead to a trickle-down effect, whereas you're probably going to have to lay off employees. When you lay off employees, that's higher unemployment, more poverty, less spending. It's just going to snowball, kind of a snowball effect.
With the service industry, sometimes we have to now make a slight adjustments to our services. So say, for example, I'm going to drop my service rates to my clients in order to accommodate the VAT increase so that they won't feel it as much, because they're already a customer of mine, so I should be able to find a way to kind of drop my rate in reference to how I service my clients. So I don't know if it's going to cause a major domino effect, but we have to be very price conscious in any event, and we got to go back to the books in budgeting our finances.
Along with the increase in tax, the government plans to increase various immigration fees, real property tax, and licensing fees. Bahamas Chamber of Commerce President Edison Sumner said he feels the government should have had some sort of consultation with the business community.
They did that when they first implemented VAT, and I think they did it for good reason. I don't understand why they would not have done that this time around. At least notify the businesses that there's some sort of change coming up and give us a little bit more time to be prepared for it.
We are usually expecting something to change. We don't know exactly what it normally would be or what the rates will be, but as always, this is the time to brace yourself in business, because we have to be ready for that particular change.
Now again, the increase in VAT will take effect as of July 1st. Reporting for Our News, I'm Jillian Gray.
Meanwhile, Minister of National Security Marvin Dames says that while he fully supports the government's decision to raise value-added tax to 12%, the decision did not come easily. Jared Higgs has that.
With the VAT hike looming, Minister of National Security Marvin Dames says there were sleepless nights and long hours of reflection prior to yesterday's budget bombshell.
There was a lot of lamentation. There was a lot of, reflection over this. We just did not sit in a room and say, let's raise taxes. There were hours and hours and days of meetings. Say, what is the best way to ease the pain on the Bahamian people? Because if we fail to do something today, there will be devastating consequences tomorrow.
Deputy Leader of the Progressive Liberal Party, Chester Cooper, described the budget as one of pain and no gain, while vowing that opposition members would not support an increase in taxes. Dames insisted, though, that the former government shared some blame in the need for the tax increase.
Maybe if they had managed the country better during the last 5 years, we may not have been where we are today. This is, I'm not going to get sideswiped or move along the lines of the politics of this. First and foremost, I am a Bahamian. I understand where we are. You know, nobody wants to pay more taxes. I certainly don't, right? But we're at a place in this country where we must decide, not tomorrow, we must decide now, you know, what we need to do to get our fiscal house in order.
Dames was also asked whether he thought this decision could lead to an increase in crime.
I'm not concerned about that, not at all. You know, we're preparing as a police force. Whatever happens, we still have to protect this country, and I'm not concerned about that whatsoever.
With an election due in about 4 years, Dames says he isn't concerned about blowback from the electorate.
We're government. We were voted in to govern, and sometimes you make very hard decisions. All right, but at the end of the day, I will assure you that Bahamian people will see the wisdom and the decision made.
The increase in VAT is expected to bring in an additional $400 million in new revenue. Reporting for Our News, I'm Jared Higgs.
Still to come on Our News, how the Defense Force is responding to the Prime Minister's viral comments on damaged vessels. That and more when Our News returns.